Let's go ahead and jump into it. So let's see, how is our, let's see, do we, you were sharing and I need my screen to share, is that right? Or no, wait, let's do, let me get this better. There we go. Does that look? Hearing, okay. I think that looks pretty good. And are we gonna dim the lights, Coach? So it's dangerous. I know it is 8:30. 9:30 for me, it's my bed. Okay, I just had some sleepy time tea. Can we give it a little bit more?
Yeah, so hold on to that. Yeah, there you go.
Little mood lighting. Getting there. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So generative AI. So the interesting thing is that I think it's back like an Eclipse. No. Need my glasses.
Press and hold it for the down button.
There. Okay, that's we'll call it there. We'll call it quits. So otherwise it'll be a total clip. Cool. So anyway, about I think it was October, I got this email for doing this opportunity, and it was just to come and give a talk or give 2 talks here in knot theory or something like that. I'm like, I can do knot theory. I don't know a lot about it, but I really know a lot about it, or not know a lot, but I've been working with this stuff a lot. So this title was from October or November, Generative AI in Education, Opportunities, Challenges, and Ethical Implications. It seemed worthwhile at the time. Folks, things are changing so quickly. 2 days ago, I learned something which, even if you have a GPT-4 account and played around with this quite a bit, I'm hazard to guess that it will maybe not blow your mind, but you'll be like, huh, didn't know it could do that. But and other folks will be like, freaked out. So anyway, we're going to jump into that. Now, the other thing is usually with these types of things, come on? Did it click? No, you're not, baby.
You just hit enter.
Yeah, I can click. There, now it's behaving. Okay, we're better. Okay, so usually what I do with these things, I start off because, we're doing this on Zoom or maybe a large group of people. Who's my neighbor? Turn to your neighbor in school, institution. I think you've already sat with all your neighbors. Is that true? There's no need to, but you know what? I hate a quiet room. Go to number 4 real quickly. This is a group. So what wouldn't you know by looking at me? You group of 5, you group of 4 back there, you 2 characters. So wouldn't know by looking at me. Go quick. Come on, we got to move through here. Wouldn't know by looking at me. Wouldn't know what we're going to do. Okay, now my guess is our groups were too big. We probably didn't get through the whole thing, but at least hopefully it lowered the temperature a little bit and you got to talk to your neighbor a little bit. So thanks for doing that. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Before, usually with a talk like knot theory tomorrow, I'll go like, here's our program, we're gonna do this, that, and the other thing, so you know the roadmap. With this stuff, oops, we got something going on. With this stuff, it's just, you know what, we're just gonna jump right into it and try to see what happens with this thing. So what's happening? Something's happening.
That's not me this time.
My son. What we're going to do is we're going to jump right into this. Now, just a quick show of slide hands. How many of us have a ChatGPT account? 3, 5, or 4? So how many of us have a 4 account? A few. Okay, so just a few of us. Anybody else have any other things that they've tried? Other stuff? Yeah? Bard. Yep. Okay. Bard. Okay, cool. Wait, Bard doesn't exist anymore, right? That is now Google's Gemini, yeah? Yeah, so interesting stuff. Okay, so what we're seeing right here, this is ChatGPT. This is the 4 version. This is the paid for version. It costs $20 a month. And we will see that you really do get what you pay for. But here's what we're going to start off with. So I'm an instructor. I'm going to talk to some instructors. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that teachers can do with this thing. And then we're going to back up and see what students can do with it. So just bear with me, students. But here we go. I teach an intro calculus class at the college level. Give me a multiple choice clicker. You know what clickers are, clicker type question that tests my students' understanding of the limit. Okay, so I hit enter. Goes down here. I'll send it this way. Here we go. So I'll send it off, and it's thinking, and this is live how quickly this thing does it. Here's a multiple choice question. Evaluate the limit. By the way, that limit that just popped up there, x squared minus 9 over x minus 3, it's writing that in LaTeX. So if you wanted to bring it down in LaTeX code, it will do that for you. So what it does is it gives you not only the multiple choice, but then it gives you the reason for what the answer is. Now, when this thing first started off, it was kind of would hallucinate and kind of make things up. It is getting better and better and better. You still want to check the stuff, still want to make sure that it's 100% correct. But the thing is, what we need to realize is right now, this is the dumbest that AI will ever be. Okay, just keep that in mind that this is the dumbest that it'll ever be. It's only going to get stronger and better. Okay, so that's one. Okay, they didn't seem too impressed by that. Let me try that. Yeah, whatever. I got too many little tags here.
Yeah, that was a good.
Here's another one. Okay, how about this? You don't like calculus, but you linear algebra. I teach a linear algebra course. College level, my students are having trouble with the concept of basis. That never happens. Come on, what am I saying? Anyway, so here we go. You don't like clicker questions?
Maybe, I don't know, I'm just trying to figure out why I'm so angry.
All right, so here's your vectors, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I love this example. In R3, are these linearly independent? Now, I don't know, you look at your neighbor, right? You could say, well, oh wait, it's going on to tell me. It's going on to tell me why. Are they linearly independent? It says no, it does not span. These are which is required. So thus the correct answer is D, that these things are not linearly independent. But it goes through and explains to you how you would do that. Here's one of the more useless definitions, I think, in linear algebra, that you're supposed to solve this thing. Students never know what that means. It takes a while to figure out what that linear combination is. But again, we can see that we get a nice question from that. Okay, they're still not terribly impressed. Let's try this one. Let's try this one. Okay, I'm teaching introductory proofs. There we go. And college level math majors, they're having trouble with induction. Please give me a clicker question for that. So again, I'm just kind of focusing on these clicker questions for a second. And induction, right? Okay, here we go. Let's see what it does with induction. So what's going to the sum of the first n odd numbers is n squared. So it goes through and says, okay, what is your base case? You decide. And again, it's going through and giving me the correct answer to that. So as instructors, right, what we can do with this thing is we can create questions. If I want to, I can ask it to give me this in LaTeX format, so it'll actually spit that out for me. Or if I don't want it to give me the correct answer, I can just say, give me the question. I'll figure out what the answer is, and then you can follow up with that. But one of the couple things I want you to kind of keep in mind as we're engaging with this, all the questions that I'm posing here, this is kind of what we call prompt engineering, which is, as these AI systems get better and better, the prompt engineering, you can get a little bit more sloppy with. You don't have to be precise. But all these questions, what did I do? I first gave it context. I am an instructor. I am teaching this level students, so it knows how to kind of pitch the things. And then I ask it for the specific output that I want. With these 3 examples, it was all about clicker type questions, okay? But again, I have to give it a context of who I am, what you're producing. So you're producing stuff for college level students. If you watch the one I did for the proofs course, I said a sophomore level students, right? So it kind of has a context of what you're doing. You can also do this for high school students and things like that. So you can kind of dial that thing in so it can respond appropriately. Make sense? Okay. Now, back to here. Back to here. Okay. So here's the question. What's your initial response to these examples? 1, been there, done that. 2, 3, or 4. Okay. Talk to your neighbor real quick. Talk to your neighbor real quick. Okay. I am not brave enough to have you do a 1, 2, 3, or 4. So I don't. Yeah. But as you're discussing with your neighbors, could you? There's some questions out there, right? Like, what about this? What about that? Can you write down a question or 2 that you're thinking about? So as you see these kind of few examples, what are some things that kind of come to mind? And again, test them on your neighbor, like questions that you might have about this. So what questions do you have about what you just saw? Again, this was ChatGPT 4. You saw kind of what's engaging with it, how quickly it went. What questions? What's coming to mind? And it can be a very minute question or a very big question. So go ahead and talk to your neighbor. I'll give you about 2 minutes to talk to your neighbor about coming up with some questions. And the thing is, I see some folks actually have a paper, so I might point it and say, what's your group's question?
All right.
Right?
I'm ready.
And you got the slides here, so I might point to you down. Okay, what's your group's question? Okay, so talking to your neighbor, you kind of do 1, 2, 3, that kind of thing. Hang on to the questions, hang on to the questions, and we'll get to those in a second. But remember I said, oh, this is for instructors. So the instructors, we did all these boring clicker questions, and maybe I could come up with those easier myself. That was a question over there. I will be honest with you, my day gets busy. And something like this before, right, 5 minutes, I mean, not that you're instructors, right? But 5 minutes before I roll in class, I'm like, oh crap, they're not doing well in this. This can very quickly generate some. And the thing is, even if it's wrong, what a beautiful thing that is. Because that is then a learning experience for your students, right? Because oftentimes, oh, the back of the book has all the answers in it. It's 100% correct all the time. Right? Yeah, because they have some, poor graduate students sitting in a closet somewhere creating these things, right? So, again, it just kind of breaks down that wall a little bit to help students understand that, whatever you see printed all the time is not 100% correct, and you kind of have that discussion. Or, not that I've done this, but you can imagine throwing a clicker question up, and then you see that it's wrong, and then the students are struggling with it, and then you have this discussion, and you're like, I meant to do that, right? You can do that. I'm just saying, you could, someone could. Okay, now, the 3 most prevalent generative AI models, let me keep the slide up for a second. So what I'm talking about today is ChatGPT-4. That's the one that I've been using the most. That's the one that kind of launched in November of 2022 and kind of blew things up. It was this arrival technology that's kind of dropped in our laps. It was kind of like, you go to make a copy, or you Xerox something, or you blow your nose and it's a Kleenex, right? That was kind of like the main thing. So there's other AIs out there, but ChatGPT kind of has that top of the mark kind of popularity. Now, some other things that are out there. So if you see this right now, this is Gemini versus ChatGPT. So somebody was talking about you were using Bard. This is now turned to Gemini. That is Google's version. So you can kind of see the little Google symbol on that robot. And then you see Claude is another one that's coming out. Now, why did I choose these particular images? Back in December of 2023, a lot of the pundits, pundits is a weird word, but anyway, the AI pundits were saying, ChatGPT kind of rules the roost, Bard's not working out, Google had, or that was Google, we had, what the heck was the one from Bing, was one that Microsoft, they just weren't keeping up. So ChatGPT, especially the 4.0, that was kind of ruling the roost. By March, Gemini and Claude have both caught up. So when you Google these things, these are the images you get because people automatically are comparing it to ChatGPT. So that said, any 3 of these, they all, the Gemini, if you do the Opus version, it costs $20 a month. The Claude 3.0, again, that costs $20 a month. They all do very similar things. I still have a preference for GPT for some of the stuff that I do, GPT-4. But anyway, they're all very, very similar. So these are all different paid accounts. And again, you kind of get what you pay for with these things. And they all have different little flavors that they kind of address stuff. All right. Here we go, students. You ready? Ooh, this is much longer. I'm a college student introductory to linear algebra class. My instructor asked if these, you know what? By the way, this is funny. So we had to randomly create that question about linear independence. And what example did it use? This one right here, I left out. Okay, formulate a linear independent set. I said now listen, this makes sense. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those aren't scalar multiples. I know they're different vectors. And then if I take 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, 9, that 2, those aren't scalar multiples, right? And then if I take the other 2, all of them are kind of this, they're not scalar multiples of each other. I check each pair. So if I put them all together, they shouldn't be scalar multiples. So therefore, they're linear independent, right? Makes sense. But she said I was wrong. Okay. Explain my reasoning is wrong without revealing the actual process to the answer to this question. Okay. So let's see what we can do with that one. All right. So I got to copy this guy. So again, this is kind of the student perspective. Now, again, before I hit it, is this cheating? Don't look at me, look at your neighbors. Is this cheating?
Not that we can trust, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question, isn't it? It's like you tried something, you thought you had an answer. Am I looking for the right answer? I want to know why my answer is wrong. Okay. Now, I do not want to see hands. Don't want to see hands. But have you ever been in a class where you had a test and it didn't go so well, chemistry, whatever, and then the instructor says, "Oh, I'll give you half credit back if you correct your test and get the right answer. No, no hands, no shaking the hand. And then what do? You just go find a smart kid and copy down, right? I mean, come on, let's be honest, right? So, but this thing here, I got something wrong. I want to know why I got it wrong. Okay. Let's see what it says. Pair of vectors is not a scalar multiple of each other instead of all three. This is not necessarily true. Pairwise checking, and then it goes through and talks about the trivial combinations. That's why it's good to initial check the vectors for scalar multiplication for independence. It involves investigating combinations of set, not just the pairs. Examination typically involves more sophisticated methods like setting it up. Now, sometimes when it comes through these things, this is called, does it have the pairwise? But sometimes it talks about, they're pairwise, linearly dependent. But anyway, it gives you kind of an idea of why your reason is wrong. Okay, that was kind of a little bit more mildly interesting. Plus, it got people a little bit nervous about whether it was cheating or not. So that was good. What else we got here? Let's try another one. Oh yeah, okay. It's mic drop time. Here we go. All right. So you did that, and maybe I moved off the ones and twos. Maybe you're at a 3 right now. This is 48 hours old. I figured this out on Wednesday. Okay. Does anybody want to guess what I'm going to do? I am going to paste an image in. And then I'm going to ask it, here's my question for my calculus, and why is it wrong? Okay. Let's see, that image, okay, so here I am, ChatGPT. That is this guy here. And I'm just going to add that there. Okay, and then my prompt for that was, okay, the room got, so Zoom folks, I'm sorry, the room got really, really quiet. All right, what happened? I literally wrote this on a piece of scratch paper, shot it with my phone, airdropped it to my computer, loaded it up to ChatGPT. In my scribbly handwriting, yeah? And it took it and did what? So first of all, it used LaTeX to make this very pretty looking for me. All right, so, oh, you're looking, and I mean, it was, what, 5 seconds in? It came up with this, and it said, oh, it does not exist. However, this might not be correct because it's a rational function that can be simplified. Here's a hint for you. You want to talk to each other? You want to talk to each other now? Okay, we had a 1, was meh. No, 1 was been there, done that. 2, yeah, 3, 4. Are we at, I don't know, but I knew this for 48 hours. I'm still at a expletive 4, right? I mean, yeah. All right, talk to you. Okay, now here's the thing. This idea, So I have several AI colleagues I deal with, and my AI advisor is actually my son. He's 23 years old. I don't know if he's on the call or not, but he's teaching AP calculus at our local high school right now. It's a long story, but anyway. But he took over this class halfway through the semester, and the previous teacher has everything printed out, but she probably used Word or something like that. So he just takes pictures of these PDFs that she has printed out for him, sends it to ChatGPT and says, hey, LaTeX this for me. And it does. I'm like, oh my God. Okay, now, no, okay, time out. Okay, so he is a math and computer science major. He can make LaTeX sing. Does he want to sit there and that's copy editing, that's just typing, right? So instead, this thing, right? And if she has errors in it, he can then go and fix it. I don't know about you. I'm about a B+ techer. He's probably a little bit better. I don't want to type all that stuff in, right? So it's just like, it's converting it so then he can do stuff with it. So then I actually took it a step further and had to do some of these things. And that was before he got to it. This is my flag in the ground, like, ha, I got there before you did, buddy. But look at, I mean, isn't this, I'm just gobsmacked that this can do this. And I did another one, the classic one where you got the limit as h approaches 0 and you're going to do it for x squared. So I said x minus h, quantity squared minus xh, or minus x squared all over h, the difference quotient. And it says, oh, you're computing the derivative of the, two. It just, unbelievable I can do that. So some things to kind of think about as we move forward with this. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. So hopefully that one kind of got your attention a little bit. So okay, well, we're going to keep that in mind. But I want to set the stage. I want to back up here a little bit. We're going to set the stage and then talk about what you guys are actually interested in, and then kind of looking ahead thing here. So first of all, set the stage. Why are we even having this session? Why are we even talking about generative AI? What's it such a big deal? Because so for the mathematicians in the room, we always talk about, oh, but in the, the 90s and stuff, last century, we had graphing calculators and did that disrupt things. And then, we had things like Wolfram Alpha and all that kind of stuff. Okay, Matt, when's the last time you picked up a graphing calculator? I mean,
This morning.
this morning, okay, we got one. Oops.
Like 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while. There we go. So anyway, in Wolfram Alpha, I don't like these. Now again, I'm talking to a math crowd, so maybe you've been playing with these things. I don't like this analogy because for the general populace, to even touch a graphing calculator, Wolfram Alpha, much less even say that they like mathematics, it's just kind of a bizarre thing, right? So it's not a very good analogy, I don't think, because even as a mathematician, I can work around these things. It's not that big a deal. Here's the thing. Generative AI is an arrival technology. So back when you were students in, maybe middle school, elementary school, about 2000, God, no, wait, I don't know how old you were, 2012, 14, something like that, iPads became a big thing. Did anybody have an iPad at their school? Like they had when they were, right? That was a big thing. Now, some people raised their hand and some people didn't. So school districts could decide whether they were going to have this technology or not. It was their decision. They could kind of gatekeep that. You can't do that with this. It's an arrival technology. It is on in November 2022. It was on people's phones. They just had it. I mean, the first, I think they had 1 million users in the first 5 days. It was crazy, right? And Spotify and different things, 4 months, 5 months. It took a long time to get up to that number. So anyway, it's a crazy technology. And the other really bizarre thing about it, it does emergent learning. We'll talk about this in a second, but it learned how to code. That was not expected. They turned it loose. It went through and scrubbed the internet, and it got into GitHub, which is a big repository for code and what's going on. And it taught itself how to code. That's like you're driving down the road in your car, and you hit a button, and it starts to fly. I didn't see that one coming, right? It's like, oh my God. So I don't like the calculator. I don't like the Wolfram. I don't like any of those analogies. Or somebody said, Wikipedia. No. This is an alien technology. It just did. It just dropped. It arrived. Here it is. And it's also, if you can see that screen, everybody. It's not just the military gets it. It's not a ray gun or some kind of spaceship that is the military. Everybody gets it. And it's alien because no one, full stop, no one knows how those things works. They just don't. It does things. I mean, it's kind of like, they're developing the nuclear bomb and they blow things up and they're like, okay, what happened? They didn't know what was going on. They just got a lot of data. We're at the same stage with this thing. Take all your different AI, they don't know what's going on with this thing. So it's emergent technology. That's what kind of makes it interesting. I'll just call it that. So anyway, all right. The other thing I want you to keep in mind, this is the one that people really struggle with. It is a jagged technological frontier. So there's a Harvard paper out. By the way, I should have mentioned this earlier, and you can throw this in the chat. So a lot of people, hey, can I have your slides afterwards? A lot of these things that I'm referencing and stuff are actually, I created a web page for you folks. So as I do these talks, there's going to be a web page that says for the folks at St. Ben and so on. So that'll have all these links to it. I'll pull that back up in a second. But anyway, there was a paper at Harvard called The Jagged Technology Frontier. AI is very good at some things and horrible at others. So if you kind of think, and it's horrible at this, I could not get it to draw a map for me that was jagged. It's like, come on. Anyway, but what's happening is up here, the highlights, that's the stuff that can do really well. Down in the deeps, they can't do that. As mathematicians, we love outliers. So if it doesn't do right, so Joe Gallion up at Duluth, if you know him, and maybe he had his algebra back in the day, he always tells a story. His wife says he never puts the toilet lid down. The toilet seat, right? And he's like, hang on, 1984, Valentine's Day, put it down, right? Because she said no. We love outliers. You got to let that go. Because there are so many things that this can do good. You like late teching? I don't like, right? So there's so many things you just kind of have to, and there's other things that it's stupid. It can't count. It can literally cannot count. It can't compute the probability of how many times the word B shows up in bubble because it can't count the 6 letters in bubble. It just can't do that. Now it's working around that, but it's a language model. So just keep that in mind. There's some things that's really good at, and that's what we want to leverage. Okay, the other thing is faculty adoption. This is kind of an adoption curve about when you get a new technology, it's kind of this normal curve that you get kind of the early innovators and then it takes more. We're kind of stuck in this chasm right now. I've done a lot of work over the last year. I've had over 1,000 people sign up for different webinars and stuff. And I always ask them this question: how would you rate your knowledge of generative AI based on your exposure between readings, NPR, podcasts, webinars, whatever? And you get this slide here. It says very familiar, somewhat familiar. That's over 60% of the people think they know what AI is about, right? Then you're like, okay, how many of you used it? Okay. And then you get about 60% who have not used it hardly at all, or used it 10 times or fewer in the last year. So again, we kind of have this chasm that we kind of know what it's about, maybe played with it a little bit, but haven't done much more with it. Why these numbers? A couple ideas here. Actually, my son kind of came up with this one. What you see here is a picture of a classroom, and AI is center stage, right? Off to the side, you see like this white-haired dude. Okay, now AI is biased, right? So I said, I want a college classroom. So who's the college professor? The white guy with the white hair. And then the person with the sweater vest, that's probably his TA, right? So very biased. But anyway, the thing is, they're kind of shunted to the side. For educators, this is what we do. This is how we identify. This is our, if you say 3 things you wouldn't know about, teacher is going to be at the top of that list. Now all of a sudden, this new technology is coming along that might replace me. Not that I think that out loud, but maybe. And you're, wait, so I'm a teaching center guy. Hey, look how AI can help you in your classroom. You're like, what the hell? Why would I do that, right? It's the enemy, right? So I think there's kind of like this existential threat, possibly, that either consciously or subconsciously that folk could be kind of worried about. So we need to be aware of that. The other thing is, this is a quote from Mark Watkins. He says, many who tried ChatGPT's free model found it utterly unimpressive in what it could produce. The writing was generic and boring, the citations filled up with made-up baloney, and hallucinations abound. So the other thing is that a lot of times people kind of early on play with the free version, which is junk. Sorry, it just is. And they kind of like, oh, I'm safe. I don't have to worry about this, right? And then the paid versions got so much better, and people keep it working. And there's this gap, right, of folks who just don't know about it, and that gap keeps, and the AI is improving, and this keeps getting better and better and better. For gamers out there, I'm not. PlayStation is now up to what? PlayStation 5. Okay, so here's the analogy. I just got this from Ethan Mollick in his book. PlayStation 6 is now out, whatever that means, whatever that technology is, okay? That's where AI is right now. So if they said government regulations were going to stop AI and it can't grow anymore, it's at PlayStation 6 level. And people like me who are using it, I'm playing Pac-Man from the 1980s. That's how much the technology gap, that even the stuff that's out there that we don't know how to do. I mean, I just came up with that thing on Wednesday with the limit notation, right? What else can this thing do? We don't know because the technology is so far advanced. So keep that in mind, that even if they said stop, turn it off, no more programming, there was so much stuff we don't know that this thing can do. The other thing is for educators in the room, these are some articles out of the Chronicle and Inside Higher Ed. The case for slow walking our use of generative AI, resist generative AI FOMO. This one here, the bottom one, when it comes to critical thinking, AI flunks the test. They gave it some econ questions, gave it to ChatGPT 3.5, and it kind of puked out. I gave it to 4, and I learned a lot about econ because they crushed it. It's like, how can you publish? There's a lot of clickbait out there that's telling faculty members, you're safe, don't worry about it, it's okay. No, we got to get engaged with this stuff. Because if we don't, we are going to develop a digital divide. Now, this isn't my best image, but you can see that divide there. So off on the right-hand side, you got this classroom, it's kind of zinging along, students are using this. Now, these are students that can afford $20 a month and have the bandwidth and the technology to do that, as opposed to kind of the old classroom off to the side. I actually had a personal experience with this. I recently I'm teaching a calculus class this semester. 3 days a week, I do calculus. 1 day a week, we do AI stuff. So my students are aware of AI. The student comes in, she is an immigrant from India, and this is her 3rd country that she's lived in. So, and she's now at Denison. and she's working in a sociology class, and she has to do this reference from 1969. She goes, and how's class? You come in the office hour, I helped her with the calculus. How's your other class? Oh, I got a sociology paper. And she didn't know the term for it, but it was a lit review. We all love lit reviews, right? So she's doing a lit review, 15 articles, and she has to get them in ASA format, American Sociology Association format. She said, I spent 3 hours on these 15 articles getting the format. I handed it to my professor. She said, I did it all wrong and I got a C-. And she's just like crushed. And I'm like, let me see. And there's AS. So I just plugged it in. Hey, make this ASA. You want APA? There you go. And she just looked at me. I'm like, now, is that cheating? Well, I just did it in 15 seconds. She spent 3 hours of frustration, got a C-, and still doesn't know what the formatting is about. And I don't know why it's important to have parentheses around 1969 or not, but apparently to these two organizations, it is. Don't get me started on this, but is that, I know you like LaTeX. Do you like ASA formatting? Maybe so. I mean, you could argue for me why to do this, but this is kind of seems one of those situations where
I don't know, I don't care a lot about formatting.
yeah. So, but this professor does, and it's like,
I do. So they
why? It's like why? I don't know the reason for that. Okay. Anyway, recap real quickly. So, alien technology, jagged frontier, faculty adoption, and then this idea of a digital divide. Because again, as this thing moves, you're going to have students in your classroom who have access to it, and others who don't. What are we going to do about this? It's going to be a problem, I think. Okay. Now, how do we move beyond this 60% thing? How do we move forward with this? You hear this a lot of times, playing with ChatGPT. So Ethan Mollick, he's at the Wharton School of Business. I follow a lot of his stuff. He says no amount of reading and research. Remember the 60% of the folks that said they're up on speed on reading and research. No can substitute for just spending about 10 hours or so with some kind of frontier model, just getting out there and playing with it and doing stuff with it. Now, does that mean I have to go out and change my classes? No, you can talk about The Hobbit and have it make playing cards for the 12 dwarfs because you can never keep them straight. And was his dad glowing or was it Thorn, right? It can sort all that stuff out for you. And just do something that's, Lord of the Rings fan there, okay. So anything that's fun for you. We just got back from a trip from Iceland. Our dog Charlie stayed at home. My son did a picture thing of Charlie flying to Iceland, and then he met up with a penguin, or no, a puffin, as one does, and they visited the volcanoes, and all these pictures, gorgeous, just gorgeous. And my wife was just rolling on the ground like she was the greatest thing ever, right? Get out there and play with it and see what it can do. It can do some amazing things. Okay, now you're like, okay, how do I play with this? Okay, because I don't know about you, I'm not very good at tutorials. Like I got to learn a new software. I need a deadline, I need something. All right, so there's this thing, and again, this is on the website. But there was a New York Times piece back, this was last year, about April of last year, Become an Expert in AI. And a lot of you as students, you're probably not aware, but I'm guessing they have access to the New York Times through their library. Okay, so you can actually sign up for this. It's a week-long thing, it takes about 15 minutes each day, and you get out there and you learn this new thing about AI, and it gives you a little bit of homework. It gives you a little quiz, like, hey, were you paying attention? I have an attention span of like a gnat, and I thought this was the greatest thing. I could do it because it's 15 minutes, but I really, really encourage you to think about that. Again, that will be linked on that website that I provide for you. Okay, now, what are your interests? So, let's see, I'm going to transition here a little bit. So, let's see where we at here. Yeah, let's do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move to a Padlet here. And then some of you probably played with Padlets before. I'm not actually going to, oops, maybe I'll make this Padlet. Here we go. Oh, come on. I already. Go. Okay, so this is a Padlet that I had last week. That I went through, and so Penn State last week had a big week on AI, and I did a webinar for them, for the STEM folks, and they went through and kind of came up with some different ideas. But what I often do with these types of talks is when people register, I ask them those two questions, like how much do you know about AI and you know how much you used it. But then I ask them a third question, what do you want to know about AI, right? And then I take those results and have ChatGPT organizing for me, and then I make my talk. Right now, you guys didn't have a registration, so I had to kind of make things up. But with this group here, the four big things that they were interested in was generating education content, providing feedback and assessment, discipline-specific applications, and enhancing student learning and engagement. Okay, so some of these things we've already seen. I've kind of done some of these examples over here, like you know, the clicker question. I did a bunch of those. Checking AI. This is kind of a fun one. I'm teaching introductory proofs. I want to give my sophomore level students practice critiquing proofs. Give me a slightly incorrect proof. The square root of 2 is irrational. So again, it can kind of generate stuff for you like that. And again, this is a funny thing because you know, I was just walking around. Somebody said, "Well, you know, aren't professors, they can just make that stuff up on their own?" We don't know as much as you think we do. At least I don't. So you know, sometimes it's helpful to have a little bit of a helper along the way. If you're one of those that isn't very organized, let me click on this one here. That's kind of boring. But anyway, this is also linked. There's this thing called the Magic To-Do List from Goblin Tools. It's a free AI tool that you know, you got a big project, you don't know where to start. You dump all the ideas in, and it will organize them for you and say, here's where you need to start. Now do this, now do that. Wait, I'm lost. Okay, click on 3. I'll give you more. I'll break it down even more for you. So for like neurodivergent students or people like me with a small attention span, it really helps out with that. But I'm keeping track of my time here. We started at 8:30. Yeah. Here's what I want to get to. So let's see. Actually, I'm going to back up a second. Let me get this is there we go. Get rid of that. There we go. So I'm going to back up a second. So remember I was talking about the Hobbit stuff. There's a thing on, so you're probably familiar with the MAA, so the Mathematical Association of America. There's a thing called math values that they have, and I've been writing a column for them called There and Back Again. And I go through and kind of chronicle a mathematician's tale of AI exploration. The thing is that, I mean, the column's crap, but I mean, isn't that a cool picture? I'm so like jazzed about it. It's all about the picture. I just love this picture. But the recent, or more, one of the recent ones I did, okay, as one does. What are we gonna do? And we got this. What's the Hobbit doing? Oh, what is it?
Learning Python.
How do you know it's Python? Look at that. Yeah, so for those of you, that's a little Python code. And oh, by the way, you got Python looking over your shoulder. So anyway, but man, just watch this. Okay, so here's the deal. All right, so let me click on this thing and let me see if I can pull this up real quickly. A lot of Python code, right? Complicated stuff. But look at this graphic that's popping up. Huh. That color is kind of settling down to that red line, right? Ooh, it's been a while in calculus. What is that? Talk to your neighbor real quick. Let me play that again. It's real. I kind of forgot what that was about. It's been a while since I taught this in calculus. So here's the code, but with this thing, what's going on there? Hey, you can cheat and read, right?
Ice is melting.
What is it? The average value of a function, right? Average value of functions. And it says there at the top. Average value of this. Okay, so here's how this story. About a month ago, my son started teaching in the middle of the semester, teaching this AP calculus, and he was talking about the average value of functions. Like, yeah, I'm trying to explain to my students like it's kind of like you have this weird container of Kool-Aid, and the Kool-Aid kind of settles down to gravity, and that would be the level of it, right? And I'm like, that's good intuition, but I said, can't you go out on the web and find like a little app or a little GIF that demonstrates that thing should exist, right? The next morning, he texted me and said, yeah, I wrote this in 10 minutes using ChatGPT. Math, computer science, double major, graduated. He could code this. You see how much code is there? In less than 10 minutes, it took him 4 prompts and it created this for him. Okay, and by the way, he says, yeah, I can type in any function I want, not just this one. yeah. Okay, so
I didn't touch a computer until 2 years after my PhD.
there you go. But anyway, so in this particular down the rabbit hole thing, so there's his little Kool-Aid example, right? We're trying, and then ChatGPT helps without that. But anyway, when he sent me that video, he said, and this is literally his text. In about 10 minutes with ChatGPT, I was able to make the animation I wanted to make. And then what's it say here? It says, did it right before the first period class, can do it with any function. Okay. This is the text I get from my son. That was my response, like, wow. I was like, oh my God, seriously? So anyway, Here's the deal, I'm like, teach me. So he knew this for a while, or he figured this out, but it took him about 2 weeks, because he's like, all right, dad's old. Dad has not programmed since like 2003, so he doesn't have an IDE on his computer. What's that mean? What is it? Integrated development environment. Ooh, what does that do for you? Yeah, so you can compile, right? Basically, an IDE is a fancy way to make a compile. So, you know, I don't want to do that, blah, blah, blah. So then he figures out, oh, we can use something called Google Colab. And Google Colab is it's a free thing. So if you have a Google account, a Gmail account, Google Colab allows you to use, oh, help me out. What are these workbooks called? So maybe played around with Google. What are the notebooks that you use? I'm blanking on what that thing is called right now, but anyway, it uses these things, and you can use this thing called Google Colab to create that. So I go through in this video and talk about how I went through to actually prompt this thing to actually create some of the things I want. I go kind of through step by step. Down here is kind of a fancier one that I do. So I'm teaching calculus. Yeah, it's got music, you listen to it. But anyway, this is a more elaborate example. And what I get the thing to do, all this code it created, and here's the image that it's giving me. Okay, so the red line is getting closer to the green line. And we get these numbers. Oh my God, you know what this is? It's a difference quotient. So this is a secant line that's getting closer to the tangent line, but you literally see the slope of that secant line changing and getting closer to the tangent line. Okay? Took me about 10 minutes. I don't know how to code. It did that. Google Colab. Unbelievable what this thing can do. So anyway, I digress. All right, so that's some of the stuff that I kind of played with. We're kind of probably at this stage right now, right? So it's like, oh, you know, kind of blowing things up here. So now the funny thing is that the instructors in the room are probably laughing more than the students. Does anyone want to call out who this is? It was the older beaker, yeah, the beeper from the Muppets from last century. But anyway, Sesame Street kind of Muppets. Anyway, so I like him. But you folks had some questions and stuff. I'm going to shut up now and let you kind of think about this. But looking ahead, what's one small step you could take next week to experiment with generative AI? That's what I want you to think about as you're talking to your neighbor. So I'm going to stop there. Thank you.
So first, let's address that question, and then after you talk to your neighbor for a minute, we'll come back and
Sounds good.
ask questions of Dr. Ludwig.
All right, so Sadeel's got you started on what's one small step you can do next week?
So if we could come back together, and if we have questions for Dr. Ludwig from his presentation, please ask now. So you can.
Back, yep.
How far have you tested the handwritten part? Like, if you draw graphs, like have it translated to 60 and.
Yeah, now wait, that was a softball, right?
No, this is,
No,
I'm trying to find my birthday.
okay, no. Let's see, hang on a second. No, I think, no, I'm gonna, oh, stop. I'm gonna call it a softball because that was, let's see, so if we go back to this guy here, where's it at? Here we go. This was the recent article here where I actually, this is interesting. Mathematician's quest to shape an AI to the ideal calculus student. But I went through, so it changed that notation in LaTeX for me. Okay. I'm a B+ LaTeX. I'm pretty good. But when it comes to like tables and stuff, I was table line. So you know what? Here's a hand-drawn table, and I just made crap up, right? Square. Why would it have a check mark and a false square? Okay, and it was just like one prompt. It came back with that. I'm a B+ LaTeXer. I can go in there 2 seconds. I got it cleaned up, right? Okay. Look familiar? Water, electric, sewage, house 1, house 2, house 3. This is the classic Kuratowski theorem. Planar graphs, you can't do it. This is not an exact graph, but whatever. First attempt, not so good. And by the way, what you call it, Tixie?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're not familiar, Tixie is a latex package that allows you to go through and draw graphs, and it can be a little bit tedious. I have, if you laugh, I have never in my life used this. I'm a B+ techer. I opened up the code, I'm like, oh, and it had it laid out nice. Like, here's all the vertices, here's all the edges, and I could like, oh, I know what's going on. So then I got to look like this, right? With about 3 minutes of effort. I've never used Tixie before. I've never used Tixie before. Then I got really kind of gutsy with it. I do this thing where I don't have my students take a test. Instead, I give them some learning outcomes or prompts, and they write their own test. And the hardest thing is, see this graph? The graph has to be crazy for it to be able to ask all these questions, right? So, hey, could you graph this for me, right? That was the big thing. Could you give me the equations so I can then type this into Desmos? And anyway, I go through back and forth, and the thing is that AI is not good at everything. But this was the bizarre thing. I got into teacher mode, right? Because, hey, AI, do this, and it tries like, oh, you kind of go. So I tried this way. She got a little better. Got a little better. Like, try it this way. And I was rooting the thing on. Okay. It figured out the parabola after I said, hey, because it just kept on saying that the vertex was at 0, 1. No, it's 0. Oh, yeah, you're right. Then it must be X squared. I'm like, awesome. Teacher in me, right? But then that line, okay, it was literally typing out kind of slow that day. It says the line is negative X. I'm like, yeah, you got negative X plus 12. Damn, it's supposed to be plus 9. But one more little prompt and it fixed itself. So
you have an interaction.
interaction. So here's the thing. This is one of the things I think which is really, we gotta get the pizza here in a second. Really encouraged about the AI. You know who's really good at AI? It's not the IT people. It's not the computer science people. It's teachers. Because we're used to an imperfect thing, person, student, and working back and forth with them. Okay, here's the deal, folks. This stuff will pass us in content knowledge. There is no doubt about it. The disconcerting thing, when I usually walk into a room with letters behind my name, I'm the expert in calculus, I'm the expert in linear algebra. There's no expert in the AI. Moving forward, physicians will be outflanked by this thing. It will know better contact, and it will have content. It will know better how to diagnose, but we will still need doctors, and we will need good doctors with good bedside manner. The AI can say, oh, this, that, and here's the probability of you dying. That doesn't work out very well, right? I mean, when the clone troopers are being fixed up by the robot, that never looks very friendly, right? So we're going to need that personal stuff. The same way with teaching. The teachers are going to be the ones at schools like ours where we interact with our students, where we know who they are as people. The AI will outflank us in content. There's no doubt about it. But that human connection and doing that and working with the AI, I think that's where we're headed with this stuff. And we got to keep an open mind in that. If we do ostrich in the sand, it's not going to be good. So we have to embrace this thing, know what it's good at, know what it's not, so that then we can adjust ourselves accordingly and be efficient in some areas. And then that's going to free me up to know more about my student and be more concerned about them and their lives as human beings, as opposed to some AI person. Make sense? You start with Tixie, and how we got down that tangent. All right, another quick question for the pizza. Yeah.
I have a question about the $20 a month thing.
Yeah.
Because it seems like that could be a potential barrier. Like you said, it seems like it's so much better if you get the paid version, but it's like, I don't know, like, I can see that just with myself. It's like, I'm kind of intrigued, but like, I don't want to sign up for one subscription.
I know, right? You have self.
That's right.
But here's the, we got about 2,000 students at Denison, $240 a year. It's about $500,000. That's a lot of money. But I'm like, wait a second. Raise your hand if you do not have a smartphone. Okay. So now you got plenty of money for the $20 a month because you're not paying. No, but here's the thing. 10, 15 years ago or 20 years ago, you didn't have smartphones. Now, the people I'm going to take your smartphone away. Oh, you can't do that. How much is that thing costing a month, right? So there's all these different things that I think we're going to get to a point where this is just going to be a natural thing. But I think educationally, they're just to level the playing field. Schools are going to have to adopt something. where, all students have access to this. And I'm not sure what that means. I know like Michigan, they're doing their own in-house kind of AI thing, meaning they keep their data closed. Arizona State's doing that, San Diego. So there's some of the bigger schools that are starting to do that. My guess is within a year or two, they're probably going to move to some kind of model where you have access to these more powerful tools at some pay for play type of thing to probably bring that cost down would be my guess. So good question.
Just like we get the New York Times.
Yeah, New York Times. So, yeah, and then the other thing, you don't even think about it. Our students have full access to Microsoft, Word, Excel, all these things, but they have to download it. You know how many students at our school do not know that? They just use Google or the Google Docs and stuff because it's free. So we're paying Microsoft for something, but so again, anyway, we'll probably get to that point where there'll be some kind of large subscriptions. Yep.
A lot of developments in like large language models and other machine learning have come because a lot of research has been like very open. But I've seen that like OpenAI and other corporations have started to withhold a lot of their research and developments. Does that concern you at all for the like development of large language models and other models in the future?
Okay, so ethically, bad things were done to get to this stage. They just work, right? So places were skimmed, data was used that was not necessarily, it was copied. There's all kinds of copyright issues. Generative pre-trained models or transformers, the pre-trained stuff, humans had to interact with this. You may have heard the horror stories of people in English-speaking countries over in Africa sorting out what is, violent language and all this kind of stuff that bad things, no doubt, we're done. But we're kind of at the stage now that, and they are hiding some things and stuff like that. But it's, I think we have to fully acknowledge that, but also, again, we're kind of at that PlayStation 6. Even if we stop things now, that this technology is out there and it's developed. So now what do we do with it, right? So yeah, I full on bad things happen to kind of get to the stage. There's also the thing about, the amount of water and stuff that it uses to cool this stuff. That's actually not as, so here, okay, if you want to train ChatGPT 3.5, to train it, so they have all these computers with the GUI or the graphic processors and stuff. They get heated up. So in the States, we cool it with water. And of course, since it's in the United States, it's pristine water, and then they just let it drain at the drain, right? 700,000 liters of water to do that. Now, why did I say liters? Because if I said 260,000 gallons, it doesn't sound as shocking. So I'm going to go with liter thing. But then you read the next sentence and it says, that's about how much water is used to make 350 BMWs or 328 Model 3 Teslas. And all of a sudden, as a American, car, I got that in my county. It's just, again, it's kind of this perspective that we have to kind of think of. So there are environmental concerns and different things that are going on. But back to your question, they are keeping it quiet. I think things are kind of leveling out right now, especially as we see these different technologies where they're at. I don't know if we're going to have a next big jump and when that's going to happen. But I appreciate the question. I don't think I necessarily answered your question, but these are things that we do need to be aware of, and in the biasing and all that, and the training. If you say, give me a picture of a judge, 90-some-odd% of them are going to be male, whereas actually about over 30% of the judges in the United States are female, right? It's very, very biased. So. All right. Other questions about pizza smelling good? One last one. All good? Oh, by the way, let me real quickly before I turn you loose here. Again, this is the website that I created for your folks. Here's the slides. Fans of 3 blue, 1 brown. You know about it. Unbelievable video that goes into the details of this. Anybody that's had linear algebra or is currently in a linear algebra class should be watching this video. This whole thing would not exist without linear algebra. This one here is a visual explainer, kind of how it works. That's the New York Times thing that some idiot made a video here. You don't have to watch that one. Anyway, that's me. So there, back again. Again, if you're a little bit more interested in what this potential can do, there's these 2 articles. So the Harvard Business School, that was the one with the jagged technology. But this MIT one is really, really interesting. It talks about the mathematics of how this thing learn. And usually large models, their learning gets better and better and better. It kind of bottoms out, and then it gets worse. And they found out that this thing actually makes a W. It's a double dip thing that it does. Really, really interesting. The goal to the AMS, all about machine learning and what's going on. That's the recent thing here. Ethan Mollick, I'm a big fan of his stuff here. So this is like many things Mollick. If you're interested in new prompt libraries, there's things going on here. This is the one where he talks about like physicians and educators and how we actually have a hope in doing this stuff. And then some other things here. AI research tools, I actually talk about that tomorrow. This is that thing from Goblin Industries. And then also for the instructors, how do I start talking about my students with this stuff? This article here talks about a nice way to how do you start engaging your students with AI and what's going on with that. So anyway, that's out there. That's on this Bitly thing, and I can update that. So if there's links or things that you're interested, I'd be more than happy to do that. So we got some pizza to eat. Again, thank you, folks.